I have these friends, Dan and Sheila. They're podcast hosts.
Welcome to Profiling Criminal Minds. I'm Dan.
And I'm Sheila.
And we're here for a Sunday show. Oh, who doesn't love a nice Sunday show?
Well, you know, we've been trying to avoid doing Sunday shows and not react and everything, but Dan just went off the rails this week.
Everything went off the rails. The whole world.
Yeah, Dan went off the rails.
It wasn't me who went off the rails. It was the world who went off the rails.
Yes, and I can't imagine what's going to happen on Monday, because most of the shows like The Daily Show and The Colbert and everything, they're off on Friday.
Yep.
They don't. And I'm just going, Jon Stewart is going to go ballistic.
Oh, absolutely.
Jeez. Colbert.
Yep.
All of those guys. I could not
believe what you were watching.
Believe it.
Yeah.
I just couldn't believe it.
Well, what fascinated me, right, was you watch it and you're like, so earlier in the week, Keir Starmer and Emmanuel Macron both went to Trump.
Yes.
Right?
The Prime Minister of England and the
President of France.
They
both went to America to essentially prep for this meeting.
Yeah.
To get Trump ready to meet with Zelensky and just to lay out to him over and over again how important it was to defend Europe from Russia. They could not have been clear about this.
Yes.
Right? They could not have been clear about how important this was, that they had to do this. And the important context for this meeting is, like, 2 weeks ago, it looked like this meeting wasn't going to happen because Trump was demanding all of this, all of these mineral rights in Ukraine and offering nothing in return.
Right.
Like, that was Trump's pitch to Ukraine was, yes, his opening bid was, you pay us back for all of the missiles we sent you to fight Russia by giving us all of your minerals. That was his opening position. And we in return provide you with nothing.
Yeah.
Now that's a delusional idea for a bunch of reasons.
Yeah. It's just delusional.
But one of which is, if there's a war going on, how are you going to exploit those minerals?
Yeah.
Now, I don't personally know a lot of, like, miners. But I feel like you're going to have a hard time finding miners who are willing to work in a minefield while artillery is firing all around them.
Yeah, because the first thing that's going to be, you open up a mine and Vladimir Putin is going to send his missiles and drones in to blow up the mine.
Exactly.
And besides, most of the ones who would have been miners are in the military now.
Exactly. So what are you going to do? And it's like, are you going to send a bunch of American contractors to work a mine in a war zone?
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't seem plausible to me that this was ever a good idea. Like, or even a plausible idea. And that's why the word was that Zelensky was like, no, obviously we're not going to do this. But in what I think is a smart move, he said yes to the meeting anyway. He said, we'll do the deal. And he came to America anyway. Specifically so this meeting could happen. And he could get in, because, how do I put this about the American media? The American media has completely deferred to Trump and decided to let Trump do whatever he wanted. This is, and I can't stress this enough. You might say I'm being hyperbolic. It may sound like I'm being hyperbolic. But this is the week where the Washington Post said, we're pro-fascism.
This was unbelievable, the Post. Holy shit. The Washington Post.
The Washington Post is not the paper of record. That's the New York Times, although they're famously terrible as well. They announced that the op-ed page would no longer have differing opinions. That the opinions page of the Washington Post would only be allowed to publish the opinion that capitalism is great. Now, you might think that sounds insane. I might think that sounds insane. But that's what actually happened this week.
So
So
I'm not getting the Washington Post anymore.
Well, no, of course not. No, you gotta. I mean, they had like 100,000 people cancel their subscriptions.
Just like that.
Just like that. Because how could you not? You said, we're doing fascism. You know? Like, come on. Don't be serious.
God, the rich stick together, don't they?
Of course they do. I mean, I've said it before, but the famous statement is that I love so much is that fascism is the white blood cells of capitalism. Whenever capitalism comes under threat, fascism shows up to defend it. Like, that's what fascism is for. It's to protect the moneyed classes against a left-wing revolution. Like, that's all fascism is for, and that's all it's ever been for.
And here's what's really funny in some ways, right? That if Trump had come in and done basically what Hitler did, which was give all sorts of extra money to the school education system, lots more money to social issues, social things like women, if they're at home, giving them extra money for having more children.
Oh, yeah.
He did all of this because people will say but Hitler was like this. It was social fascism, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, I've probably been quasi guilty of some of that myself. Mm-hmm. Maybe. I'm trying to think when, but probably when I'm trying to be fair teaching a history class on that period of German history.
Yeah.
But it is. And because the question is, why did women vote for him?
Yep.
And right. So if he had come into power and put so much of that stuff into place, then he would have been following in those footsteps and people would not be getting as angry. I listened to a woman who had voted for Trump because he had promised to support IVF.
Yeah. That's not going to happen.
And she has, okay, but this is it. And she was talking about, she went into she's so ashamed of herself now looking at it because she just lost her job in the Doge mess.
Yeah.
And, and I think she's from Michigan, but she said he promised. And she said, when I got into the booth, she said, I ended up being one of those one issue people.
Right.
Just like, as I would say, a lot of the Muslim Americans were a one issue people and voted for him because, and this is what they got. But
no, I think a lot of the Muslim people, I think the vast majority of the Muslim people just stayed home.
Well,
it's not
but
that they voted for Trump. There
were
some. I'm saying the majority.
Yeah. Okay. But the ones that voted for Trump and supported Trump. Okay. But that's it. But staying home is as bad as voting for Trump.
Well, because what you have to remember is not only does Trump not have a mandate, he didn't even get 50% of the vote. He won with fewer votes than he had when he lost in 2020. So just remember that.
Yeah.
Like, this was like, he is less popular now than he was in 2020 when he lost.
Yeah. Well, let me just finish. Okay.
No, I'm just saying it's important to remember that.
No, it is, but
a lot of people didn't turn up to vote for this.
Well, but Doug Ford did that Thursday night. I've got a mandate to do all these things.
I know, but that's what I'm saying. You can never
justify
the same idea. The lies these men tell.
Yes. So what happens is that, but what happened, so there's this woman and, everything has gone.
Yeah.
Everything she voted. And now she's feeling, she has her, I guess she'll never vote on a one issue thing again. There's the upside to that, I suppose.
Yeah.
But I'm just going, there are all of these little people that made it possible.
Yeah.
And whereas my point is if Trump had followed through in a lot of those things, what happens in the foreign arena doesn't matter.
Absolutely.
But because so many of these people, the promises are not being kept, or they're just being destroyed.
Again,
people are
he
being
came
fired.
In and he just started firing everybody.
Yeah, and so therefore, Yeah, and putting people out of work and then doing these tariff things, which are going to put even more people out of work in the United States, even though they don't understand that yet, because if a company can't sell to Canada and can't find someplace else to sell it because people are going to get really pissed off at the U.S., they can't sell it anyway. They're going to have to shut down their factories or shut down making Kentucky bourbon.
Yeah.
You know? And it is a,
I feel especially sorry for the Kentucky bourbon people, by the way.
Yes.
Like, I really
so
do. Like,
you know, and
it's
I really
a good product, but, you
Yes.
know, you just can't support them.
Well, that's the whole point. So, and we don't know what'll happen on Tuesday or Wednesday or whenever it is he's doing this thing. I think it's Tuesday.
Yeah.
If the tariffs go up, but I've already seen people, I have had people who have phoned me and said, can I get EI? These are permanent residents, people who have come here and become permanent residents who have work or here on work visas. You know, because already some of the companies in Sault Ste. Marie are starting to wind down.
Yeah, of course.
Some of their issues because they know that, okay, I'm not going to need this because, you know, you're starting to retrench already. So yes, I mean, this particular one person, yes, he was going to be able to get EI. And then he wanted to know if he could move to Toronto to find work. And I said, oh yeah, as long as you're within the boundaries of Canada, essentially you can, it's a federal program. So I said, the amount you get might change depending on where you live. But other than that, so it's already starting to have an impact in Canada. And Americans know so little about the United States, about Canada.
Yes.
And it is astonishing how little they know about their biggest trading partner.
Yeah.
I mean, most Texans have no idea how many billions of dollars they sell to Canada.
Yep.
I mean, it is amazing. I was listening again to this whole thing about, okay, well, let's look at these trade issues and this, that, and the other thing, right? And they don't seem to understand that it's Canadian crude oil that is being refined in the oil refineries in Texas.
Yep.
It's Canadian crude. If we shut off the taps, all those people have no work.
Nope.
Because what are you going to do? Get your crude oil from Saudi Arabia that's going to take 2 weeks by ship to get to New Orleans and then has to be moved into Texas? This is the problem. Right? And so it is weird. It is weird. We're a little off the Zelensky topic, but we're
going to come back. Don't worry.
We'll come back. But this is so bizarre. Like you and I listen to a lot of different stuff, so we can, but we both understand sort of the ramifications. And it is amazing to see if you can go on YouTube and an American, and there's more than one of them, looks at Canada or listens to this. One guy was listening to Rick Mercer and he listened to this 2-hour thing that was done. God, it must have been 20 years ago, right?
Yeah.
Where he went down to America and talked to people about Canada and made up all sorts of things. Yeah. And half the time he didn't have any idea because he doesn't know anything about Canada either. And he said, well, is that true? That couldn't possibly be true. Yeah. And of course, in Canada, everybody's killing themselves laughing.
Yeah, naturally.
You know, and so you're seeing all this stuff pop up now on YouTube. Like, okay, famous Americans who are really Canadians, right? 20 famous
Americans who are actually from Canada. Yeah.
Yeah. And he was going through, well, this one guy goes, he knew about 5 were Canadian, right? The rest of them, I didn't know they were Canadian.
Yeah.
He said, well, I guess Americans just think if somebody becomes famous in America, they're American.
Yep.
Yep. And Wayne Gretzky, nobody can take anybody's citizenship away. But if Wayne Gretzky shows his face at a hockey game in Edmonton,
let's just say that, okay, and this is how the week started, by the way.
Oh yeah.
So last week I'll explain this. No, this is all the same week is the insane.
We're talking
so This week started with there was something called the Four Nations Hockey Championship. And I don't know what the Four Nations were. Probably Iceland and Finland in addition to Canada and the United States. But given the current tensions, let's say.
Yes, let's call them tensions.
Call them tensions. Right? Considering the current tensions, I think it's fair to say that people were most interested in the Canada-United States type situation.
Games, yes.
Yeah, that was... And the Americans kept starting fights because they're bullies and creeps. Like, that's not a surprise there. But that's not what offended Canada. Canada is used to fight. Like, Canadians are used to fighting in hockey games.
Oh,
that is not a chore for Canadians. No.
No.
Wayne Gretzky, in case you're not familiar with hockey, is arguably, like, the best player to have ever played hockey. Like, there are people who will tell you that no one has ever been as good as a sport as Wayne Gretzky is at hockey. Like, he really is an incredible player. And always was, right?
Yeah, he even played in Sault Ste. Marie.
That's fascinating.
For a year with the junior Greyhounds, with the Greyhounds Junior Hockey League.
Yeah, like he was so good at hockey as a child that he was playing 2 years above his level. Mm-hmm. So when he was 10, he was playing with 12-year-olds. When he was 12, he was playing with 14-year-olds. And when he was like 15, he was a professional hockey player, basically.
With the Edmonton Oilers in Alberta.
Yeah. Well, I think in his first year he played for some expansion league, but yeah, then he became an Edmonton Oiler, and it was an iconic performance, and he was, the great one. No one had ever seen hockey this good, and then he left for the LA Kings, and Canada didn't
Well, it
turn
wasn't
on right
his
away.
choice.
No, it wasn't.
It wasn't his choice to go.
Yeah.
It was Eglinton who. I think that was Peter Eglinton was the owner of the Edmonton Oilers, and he was having financial difficulties.
And the LA Kings.
So he sold his best player.
Yeah. But he didn't just sell his best player. He sold like Canada.
Yeah.
Like he sold out Canada. But the point is, we still liked him. Even if he went United States, which he did,
Yeah.
He married an actress and he only hung out with Americans. And it's like, but we still loved him. But the thing is, he started hanging out with Donald Trump.
Yep.
Now, I don't know if it's because his wife likes Trump. I don't know if it's his kids like Trump. I don't know if it's because he likes Trump, okay? But he started hanging out with Donald Trump. And we were like, well, that's not a good look. But when he was hanging out with Donald Trump wasn't threatening to invade Canada.
Yeah.
And so, because he's Wayne Gretzky, because he's so important to us in the history of the game, right, our national sport, we were like, okay, well, we don't like this, but, we're going to make him the honorary captain of the Canadian hockey team for this game, right? That's what Canada decided to do. And then he came to Montreal, because, of course, he was expected to, but he refused to wear the jersey of the Canadian team. And he only hung out with and talked to and nodded to the American team. He was clearly rooting for the American team. And don't come back is basically all of Canada's reaction now.
Yes. Just don't
Maybe
come
don't come back, Wayne. Maybe we don't need you anymore.
Well, they're going to change the name of I think the Coliseum is named after after Gretzky, the ice rink and places. No, they're just going to, there's a petition now to take his name off
of course.
Anything. Yeah.
And they have to. Like, he has betrayed the country at a time when the country is actually under assault.
Yeah. And that was the game. Yeah. And in Montreal, the game where they booed the American national anthem, which is not very like us. We don't usually do that, which can tell you just how pissed off everybody is about all of this.
Well, yeah, again.
It's the 51st state crap that's bothering. The tariffs are one thing. I don't think anybody would have
booing over the tariffs. The stealing our country?
Idea that you're going to come in and somehow or another think we're going to love becoming Americans?
Like, become part of an objectively worse country? Like...
Duh!
I just love I did love Trump's justification, right? But it's like, oh, well, we spend so much money defending Canada. I'm like, from who?
Yeah, from who?
Canada's not threatened by anybody. What money are you spending defending Canada? You know what?
Yeah.
Stop spending money defending Canada. We're fine with it. What he means is we let them have anti-missile detection stuff up north. That's what he's talking about. That's like, okay, shut them down. We don't care.
It's not defending us. It's there to defend the Americans.
You.
It's the first line of defense against Russia, is what it was.
Yes, that's exactly what it was. They said, you can. We all
Cold
remember
War.
that scene from the Avro Arrow movie, where Eisenhower says to him, "You can have your own planes, we'll put down interceptors to shoot down ICBMs. We'll put it at the Canadian border, or we'll put them up north. But if you have our own plane, we won't put them up north because you're handling your own defense. But of course, if we're shooting down nuclear missiles north of our border, those things are going to be crashing in Canada." We all remember that scene. I don't know how true it was, but
it's pretty close to true.
It was pretty close to true.
Yeah.
Like, nobody knows exactly what these men said to each other, but it's got to be pretty close to what happened. Because we certainly shut down the Avro Arrow program, and all the guys who made the Avro Arrow went to work in aerospace and created, the space shuttle.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. That part of Canadian history, which also nobody knows about, right? Is fascinating. Like, this was okay. Let's make these deals. Let's do this, that, and the other thing. And Canada keeps pulling. Right?
Yep.
There are times when we have to take state, but that made sense. Ultimately, if you think about it, it is what stopped us having our own airplane industry and space program. The Avro Arrow was probably one of the best planes built at the time.
Oh, yeah.
And
it was the future of aviation.
Yeah. And so what happened was that, okay, we gave it up. And they put their missiles and stuff up north. Mm-hmm. But it was to defend against Russia. At that point in time, China was not the big baddie.
Nope.
So China was having its own problems. And, that's the 50, that's Mao Zedong, that's the Long March, that's China was in massive turmoil. So
it was, yes.
And then they had the Cultural Revolution. All of these things are historically, and they do fit into this, but they resolved their issues in China. Then they became the big baddie.
Yeah.
But Russia was always the big baddie.
Mm-hmm.
And so everybody defended against Russia.
Yeah.
And it is unbelievable how distorted Trump has made all of these decisions. And he doesn't understand, like there was, and that was just this morning. I listened to it before it actually aired. These novels that came out, and I still remember, I had forgotten about these novels in the 70s.
Which novels are these?
Oh God, Richard Romer wrote these. One was, and it was about Americans, and there had been one in the 60s that I don't think I ever read.
Oh, okay.
And then Richard Romer about Americans wanting to take our water,
right?
Wanting to take our minerals, and they actually came in, right? And sent the military in. One of them has Quebec seceding from Canada, and so then the Americans send their military in to take over Quebec, and then Canada comes in to save Quebec
from America.
Right? From the Americans.
That's hilarious.
Oh, I know.
Oh,
but this was
great.
all, and somebody says, well, why were all these, and I had copies of them. They are long gone, of course.
Yeah.
But maybe we should bring them back up again. And after this discussion,
if we can find them,
they just might, I wouldn't be surprised if they don't get republished.
Yeah. With this stuff going on, wouldn't shock me.
With this, and what happens is that what this political science professor from Carleton was saying, he said, what you have to understand is at that point, what we are looking at in the United States is that America is this violent country. It is killing civilians because of the Vietnam War. It has the civil rights movement, and it is killing Americans, because they don't want to have any kind of equality. That we are looking at everything that America's doing, and they're so violent. Nobody wants any part of it. This doesn't stop us.
And how are they not going to turn that violence towards us?
Yeah, and then there was Richard Nixon, right, who did not get along, of course, with Pierre Trudeau.
No, famously, actually.
Trudeau the first.
Yeah.
Very, very famously.
Yeah.
And the guy he said, I'm not going to repeat what Richard Nixon said about Canada. He said, but you can read the book. Go read the book. Find the book and go read the book.
Oh, God.
Yeah, we know all of these sorts of things, right? And, that famous phrase, it's really hard when you're a mouse to be sleeping next to an elephant.
Yeah.
That's the phrase. That's how Trudeau 1 explained it. And now, it boggles my mind. This has been going on and off. It comes up and down, up and down, up and down, which was why, the Reagan Mulroney, the Irish, as they called it, the Irish summit, the two of them singing at the end of it, singing when Irish eyes are smiling.
Yep.
Because they had made this trade agreement and stuff. I just, you look at that sort of stuff, there is an attempt. Americans were pissed off, but they were certainly pissed off at us because we refused to engage in the Iraq war.
Yeah.
We did go in to Afghanistan. So that Americans could move their troops out of Afghanistan. So we did peacekeeping work in Afghanistan, essentially for us, right? And building work in Afghanistan. That would have been under Chrétien, who was, of course, part of the Trudeau legacy. But Americans just do not understand. They seem to think, they believe that somehow or another, everybody in the world wants to be an American.
That's the part I'll never understand.
They have it in their head that they are the best in the world at everything, and it doesn't matter what it is.
Yeah.
Okay, and now I will bring us back to, and look what you got now, because that it was about an hour.
Yeah.
Right? That 1 hour publicized in the media. And as Michael Smerconish said this morning, well, the only thing true about basically what happened there was it made for good television.
Yeah.
He said, because, basically Trump is way out of line.
Oh, he is, again, people have called it, and I don't disagree.
Geez.
The most shameful thing an American president has ever done in public.
Yes.
He was screaming at the guy.
Yeah.
It's insane.
Tiny, little tiny country.
Yeah.
That is smaller than Ontario. Ukrainians don't believe that until they look at the square.
By the way, I just want to I want you to pause for a second.
Yeah.
It is not a little tiny country. Ontario is unfathomably huge. Compared to every other European country, Ukraine is enormous.
Yes, that's true.
Now you say, you say little tiny country, but it takes 20 hours to drive across Ukraine. But, that's only a little tiny because it takes 20 hours to drive across Ontario.
Yeah, it is, you can still, but anyway, compared to...
Yes, compared to where we live, yes, it is tiny.
Yes.
But
but it is...
Compared to any other country in Europe, it's huge.
But its population...
Oh, yeah. But they've got, 70 million people, something like that?
Something like that, and it is, and it is the, it has the prairie element, which is why a lot of Ukrainians moved into the West.
Oh, yeah.
And farmed, because during the famine, for example, that Stalin created in Ukraine, a lot of them got out and came into the West.
Yeah.
For the most, but some of them were other places. But yes, I watched that when you said to me yesterday.
Yeah.
Because we did a different podcast yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
And, and I'm sitting there And he says, but we're going to have to do it. You said, because did you see what happened? And I went, no. And I opened up CNN and I just went, oh.
Yeah, that's what happened.
Oh my God.
Well, I think what's so fascinating, right, is like, again, I mean, Trump's a dumb man, and he doesn't, he just fundamentally doesn't know what he's doing with any of this stuff. Because J.D. Vance, like, got the message that this was, a chance to humiliate, humiliate Zelensky. Like, that was the goal. They wanted to humiliate Zelensky. Right, that was the goal. They wanted to publicly humble him and make it so people weren't on his side anymore. But the thing is, like, he kept his cool so effectively.
Yeah.
Because this man went in knowing there wasn't going to be a deal. And he knew that, and this is to rewind a second, that the American media has so thoroughly decided they're in the tank for Trump and fascism that they are not going to report sympathetically on Ukraine. Their plan was to not sympathetically report on Ukraine anymore. Like, that was the American media's plan. We're just not going to be on Ukraine's side anymore because, Trump doesn't want to be on Ukraine's side anymore. So that's our marching orders. And now the American media takes marching orders from the president. And it's like the only people standing up to him are like the Associated Press, who won't call it the Gulf of America. Like, that's it? It's the only people standing up to Trump? Are you crazy? But yeah, it's the only people standing up to Trump.
Well,
and Google but what he did, and this is the genius part. So he knew that he was never going to make a deal without security guarantees.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And they said, you're not going to get any security guarantees. And so he's like, fine, I'll take the deal, never intending to sign the deal. What he wanted to do was get in front of a camera next to President Trump and publicly say, Putin started this war, Putin's a liar, and there's never going to be peace unless we have security guarantees from America. And he wanted to say that where everyone was watching and the American media and the world media couldn't cut away.
Yeah.
And that's what he got out of this.
Yeah, that's the one thing he got. Yeah, and that is the thing, and it's a big thing that he got out of this.
It's big.
But of course, no, what else he got out of this is the whole world is just like jaw dropped.
Oh, and how terrible Trump is,
about what Trump did and said.
Yep.
And, it was, somebody said it was, how did it say? They called J.D. Vance the sidekick.
Yes.
The sidekick to Donald Trump's.
Oh, yeah. Like, Trump is acting like a bully, and so he needs his little instigator there to start the fight so Trump can rush in.
Yeah.
But the funny part is, Trump has so little self-control, right?
Mm-hmm.
That what did he do? He started yelling about how none of this is Putin's fault and how Putin is a good guy and the two of them bonded over Russiagate, and he started yelling about Russiagate. Like,
it is weird.
Oh, I mean, but that's all that's in his head. It's petty grievances.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, the fact that Zelensky to his face said that you are repeating Russian propaganda. He didn't say it that way, but but Trump said, without our help, you wouldn't have lasted 3 weeks. And Zelensky said, 3 weeks, 3 days. Putin has been said. We've been hearing that from years from Vladimir Putin.
Yeah.
Like, oh, damn. You just accused Trump of repeating Russian propaganda, which is what Trump's doing.
Yeah.
But, like, to actually have him say it, that's huge.
Yep. And then he went on Fox News after it was over.
And said, I have nothing to apologize for.
Yeah. And it was actually, apparently, I didn't watch the Fox News thing yet.
Yeah.
But apparently, it was a very civil conversation.
Oh, yeah.
Unlike the one in the Oval Office.
Right? Oh, my God. I was amazed. I saw clips of it. I haven't watched the whole Fox interview yet. But it's like, he played this as well as he possibly could. Yeah. But the important part is, and this is what Trump seems to forget, the American people don't like Vladimir Putin. The American people aren't on the side of Russia. Like, they're just not.
Yes, but his definitely white right MAGA supporters.
No. There are some small number of Nazis who are on the side of Russia. But the problem is, and I mean, this is not a nice way to say it, like 30% of Ukraine is Nazis. You know, like, so
we won't talk about Ukraine.
No, that's enough. No, but I'm saying that's another conversation.
True.
But it's true. Like 30% of Ukraine is just straight up Nazis. Okay.
We will talk about that.
We're going to talk about that later. But no, it is a fact, which actually makes it a little difficult for like the American Nazi contingent to decide whose side they're supposed to be on.
Yeah.
Because Russia are, like they do hate gay people. They do hate non-white people. They're doing all the things the Nazis do. Like they are absolutely Nazi coded in every important way. But like, so is a lot of Ukraine.
Well, yeah, because we're not going to talk about the oligarchs in Ukraine and the whole business, but that was after the wall collapsed and they got a foothold. Yes. And that's when Putin also got his foothold.
Oh, absolutely.
After the collapse. Yeah. It happens. We're not going to do Russian history right now, but and Ukrainian history, because I will tell you, you just go back 20 years ago and find out where all of the scams came from. They came from Ukraine.
Oh yeah.
Where did the Ukrainian mafia, which was attached to the Russian mafia, and they came over. You just go back and start if you wanted to just watch. State. And so, but the Russians basically were still in control of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And slowly but surely
it was a client mafia state of Russia.
Yeah. Yeah, and even though it was just Ukraine, right? And it had been, of course, part of the USSR.
Oh yeah.
Right? And then you end up with, but this was the problem, like when East and West Germany, where do you think all of the white nationalists, supremacists came from in Germany? They came when the wall came down and then East Germany and West Germany joined together, but they have two very, very different histories.
Well, you look at the voting in Germany, and it's like all the guys who used to be in the USSR are the guys voting for the Nazis. Yeah. Which is weird, but, they were Nazis originally, so it's not that weird. Like, I always joke about the fact, well, no, they're the grandchildren of, Nazis and great-grandchildren of Nazis. Like, the thing that's always funny is, like, when I was watching that movie it was some British movie, right? And it was about people, trying to escape East Germany in the late 1970s. And so there's this scene where the cops catch them and like the military police catches them and they're all dressed in Nazi uniforms. And I'm like, is that just the only uniform they had lying around? Or did East Germany not change the uniforms? And so I went and I looked it up, and East Germany never even stopped wearing Nazi uniforms.
They were just now the Stasi.
Yeah, they changed their name to the Stasi, but they were still the Gestapo. It was the same guys doing the same job for the same reason.
Yeah.
So it's not a huge surprise that East Germany is now supporting the new Nazi party.
No,
they didn't even change the uniforms.
Yeah, you have to go, like, watch, I mean, if you're into culture, because this is sort of a culture podcast.
It is. Absolutely. On Sunday
go back and watch the films.
Yeah.
Go back and watch the films of the late 60s and the 70s, like the Cold War films of the 60s and the 70s, and just see, and whether they're made for TV movies or the big screen.
Yeah.
And you wait John Le Carré's movies that were put onto film. They had other issues as well, but the intricacies of spycraft during that period, because Russia was the enemy, right? And so you always wanted to know what Russia was doing. And the British, of course, probably created the best of them.
Oh, yeah.
The messiest of them, showing just how spycraft is so messy and soul destroying.
That's why we had Jean Le Carré.
Yes, that's why we had, because he had been a spy at one point.
Here on the show, we mostly talk about The Constant Gardener because it comes up a lot. Understandably, it's a great book and a great movie. But no, Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy is just fantastic.
Oh,
it's his adaptation of the Burgess and McLean and Kim Philby sagas.
Yes, well, he wrote something, I Spy, or and about how you lose your identity when you're a spy. You don't even know who you are anymore.
Mm-hmm.
There's all sorts of other things. Now it's the one, not Through the Looking Glass. It's the one after that with Richard Burton, the movie with Richard Burton.
Spy Who Came In From the Cold.
Yeah, The Spy Who Came In From the Cold.
Oh, magnificent
Richard Burton
movie.
And Claire Bloom and Oscar.
Not important who the actor is. That's not
the
important
German
to the story
actor.
You're telling.
Yeah, it is.
Magnificent.
Those things are stunning.
Yeah,
and it's not the same as watching the history of the whole thing.
No,
but it gives you an idea of the kind of paranoia that existed in the 60s and the 70s about Russia.
Oh yeah,
and this is, and so to do an about face like Trump has done, where Americans have always been told forever and ever and ever, it's part of the national psyche almost that Russia are the bad guys.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden Trump is doing this about face. It's giving some people pause.
It's giving a lot of people pause. At the end of the day,
and they don't understand
whether or not
this.
the rank and file American is on Ukraine's side. There are two basic beliefs in America. Either A, they are on the side of Ukraine, or B, they're not interested. Nobody is on Russia's side in America, except for, again, a tiny coterie of actual Nazis, which is, 20% of Trump's base. Right? Are the ones who are actual Nazis.
Oh, did you watch The Daily Show this week?
I did not. I will have to check it out.
I did it after I needed an antidote after I watched this whole thing with Zelensky. So I went back and watched this week's, because they were off last week. Yeah. So she gets, the guy who, anyway, he was the choreographer for Elon Musk.
Oh no.
And the jumping and
his trying to do a quote unquote X jump. Yes.
And he was doing all sorts of things. And he said, well, he was a really tough case because he doesn't have a lot of control of his body and this, that, and the other thing. And this guy is, and he's trying to he's done other people, right?
Yeah.
And so everything is successful until we get to he was trying to teach Elon how to show the people his heart. Right. And you can see, and of course it comes out as the Nazi salute.
Yeah.
Right. And you can see the guy who's playing the choreographer going, "Oh no, he was supposed to do this," go to his heart and then put his hand out open to the people, right?
Aww.
Instead, he did the Nazi salute, and his mother keeps calling him,
Of course. The interesting thing is,
God, it was funny.
His Nazi salute is if you look at it, that's the way American neo-Nazis do the Nazi salute.
Yeah.
Most Nazis just do the straight arm, but occasionally Hitler formally would do the smash your chest and then throw the thing out.
Yeah.
And so the American Nazis adopted the harder core version of the Hitler Nazi salute rather than the casual one that was done. So he's very much an American Nazi. It would be nice if he, it would be nice if we could get rid of his Canadian citizenship.
We can't.
Well, no, you say that, but Ernst Zundel can't come to Canada.
Well, that's true.
He is actively involved in Holocaust denial. He literally went to Germany and said, you shouldn't feel bad about the Holocaust anymore.
Yeah.
He's actively involved in Holocaust denial. He could become, just based on that, persona non grata in Canada. Maybe you can't take away his citizenship, but you can take away his ability to come to Canada ever.
Well, I tell you, I mean, the big thing in Canada right now is that we would really like it if the government would forbid Trump to come to Canada.
Yeah, that would be nice.
For the G7, because the G7 is going to be in Canada this year.
Yeah, and he's threatened Canada.
Yeah,
and he's just going to come here, and he's going to continue making threats, and he's going to do it on Canadian soil.
So why would you have someone who is going to threaten the sovereignty of your country?
Yep.
Come to your country?
No, it's insane.
So it's going to be interesting. I tell you,
it's going to be a fascinating year. Oh no, he's constitutionally incapable of apologizing. Of course, you're right.
That doesn't happen.
He literally can't.
And I still hear some Americans going, yeah, but he's just like the pundit types.
Yeah.
Who seem to be not quite this. So many of them still don't. Well, no, this is just his transactional blah, 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 blah. You're getting that. And I'm just going, no, look what he's doing. And what has happened is that less and less of that's going to be accepted in Canada because we're watching what he's doing to Ukraine because Ukraine has the same minerals and Ukraine has the stuff that we have. And never forget our beloved, and it started with an I that starred
Intelligence. Yeah.
Intelligence.
Oh, magnificent.
That somehow or another disappeared, even though it was making loads of money for the CBC. And
popular worldwide.
Yep. And it disappeared.
Yeah.
And that was because they were accusing Americans
of meddling in Canadian politics. Yeah.
That's what it was. That's what
the whole show was about.
The thrust of the show was about.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, okay, it's not going to get renewed. And I don't know, the funding had to have been pulled from it.
That's exactly what happened.
And so, and that was under Harper's watch, and I'll bet you Harper's cringing right now.
Oh, God.
Because the thing was the water rights, right? Because that was a big thing for a long time. And Trump is talking about water rights again.
Oh, yeah. Again,
like he wants our water.
Well,
so he can give it, so he can let it flow into some mountain instead of going to Los Angeles. I just couldn't believe that when the Los Angeles fire was. That was funny. Okay, well, as soon as he came in, we're going to open those floodgates. The water went nowhere near Los Angeles.
Well, I think my favorite part about that was the story that he sent in the Army Corps of Engineers to open the floodgates, and they did, and then the guys who were actually in charge of the dam were like, what the hell are you doing? And so they were supposed to open them all the way and continue doing it. And so the guys in charge of the dam just sat down the Army Corps of Engineers guys and said, look, they just essentially pointed to a map and said, if you keep dumping this water, not only is it all just going to go out, is it going to flood the Central Valley during the winter when there's no reason to do that, but the rest of it is just going to go out to the ocean. It gets nowhere near Los Angeles. And this is the key part. There will be no water in this reservoir to make this into farmland in the summer. Yeah. And to the credit of the Army Corps Engineers, they actually turned off the water. They actually heard the correct statement and turned off the water. So they were capable of listening to reason. So that's something. Yeah. But it's the problem was, he was just spewing idiocy. The problem in Los Angeles was never that they didn't have enough water. It's that there were so many fires. Okay. In case you don't know how hydrants work, there is a giant pipe of water, and all of the hydrants pull from that giant pipe of water. It is called a trunk line. And there is a limit to the number of hydrants you can open at once before you start losing water pressure. They were never out of water, but there's a physical limit to how big the trunk line is. Yeah. And that's how much fire there was. There were too many hydrants open, so they were losing water pressure. It's not that they didn't have enough water in their reservoir. It's that the trunk line was only X big enough, so it could only move a certain amount of water. There was a physical limit. And they had
4, 5, 6... At one point, 6 small fires in 6 different areas.
And so there's a physical limit to the amount of water that the city can move. And it's not that they don't have water to move. It's that, you could only put so much water through a tube. It's as simple as that. And Trump, of course, does not understand this. Because fundamentally, Trump doesn't understand anything.
Well, he doesn't really. Well, and it isn't that he couldn't understand it. He doesn't want to understand it.
He's a monstrously incurious man.
Yes, and when somebody tells him the truth, he just decides that it's not the truth.
Yeah.
Well, that can't be how it works. Because I said.
Oh, yeah.
Because I said. And I'm
no, anytime the truth, interacts negatively with what he needs to be true, he just pretends he didn't hear it. Yeah. He's a fascinating figure. The pathological unwillingness to understand reality. It's a fascinating trait. And, we're going to have hundreds of years of people studying this presidency, assuming humanity survives Trump. Oh,
I'm sure it will, except God only knows. If anybody starts the World War III, it's going to be Donald Trump.
Yeah, that was one of the stranger parts about the interview.
Was weird.
We keep saying you're going to be starting World War III, and it's based on what?
Trump, because Putin might have said it.
Yeah, but
Putin might have said, "Well, we're just going to."
We'll just start World War III.
Yeah, we're just going to, I'm going to use nuclear bombs on Ukraine. And of course, that's the great fear that once somebody sets off a nuclear war, that's going to start.
All bets are off.
The other problem is Taiwan.
Yeah.
They've got to be petrified in Taiwan.
Oh, yeah.
Because he's going to do to Taiwan
what he's done to Ukraine.
What he's done to Ukraine.
Yeah.
Which is sell them out. And done to the Palestinians, which he has done, sell them out.
Well, he was never on the difference there is that
he was never,
America has never made an agreement to defend the Palestinians the way they have made agreements to defend Taiwan,
Ukraine and Taiwan. Yeah.
Oh, and just
the Japanese must be freaking out.
Of course. Contextually, it's important to remember this fact. In the 1990s, the Soviet Union broke up. And basically, America, trying to create a stable world for free markets, blah, 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 right, wanted there to not be a bunch of unbelievably deadly regional wars. So what they said to all the countries were, and Ukraine, they signed this one down, let us decommission your nukes.
Yeah. Oh.
And we will prevent Russia from invading you.
Yeah.
That is what they said. That is the quote-unquote agreement that was made. The agreement that was made was, let us decommission your nukes, and we will defend you from Russia. And that's in paper. And America is not living up to that.
Well, they were, and it is just, it's because, it just is.
I know.
It is mind-boggling. And I'm not saying that Americans ever knew a lot about Canada.
Yeah.
I probably never did.
No, of course not.
But at least they knew something about world history.
Yeah.
But
the fact that they don't know any of this stuff
it boggles the mind. So many people have absolutely no idea. And we are not talking about people, who are uneducated or anything like that. That's not what I'm talking about. You've got your people with university degrees who haven't got a clue. If you remember if you go back to that Rick Mercer thing.
Yeah.
Because the guy only watched it in 15-minute segments because he couldn't take it.
About all of the complete ignorance of Americans.
Yeah, but even Rick Mercer went to Harvard and was talking to one Harvard professor.
Oh, no.
Who literally was a, history professor and didn't understand the basic stuff about Canada. It's like Canada, is still this somehow or another. We still live in igloos for some Americans, and we still, I don't know, it boggles the mind. They know nothing about our system, and most of the world doesn't. Okay, you don't get history in the parliamentary system, for example.
Yeah.
No, when our prime minister resigns, guess what? There's no problem because you don't have, the next, you will have a leadership convention, which we are having. I've had to explain this, right? A leadership convention, which we're having. Whoever becomes the leader of the Liberal Party becomes the prime minister. That's just how it works. And you have, and in our case, because Parliament was prorogued, there's not a problem. But if Trudeau had stepped down, and Parliament was still in session, usually what he would do is the deputy prime minister, and that's the funny thing. If that had happened, if they could have persuaded Trudeau to step down, Freeland would have become, because she was the deputy prime minister.
She would have automatically become prime minister.
The interim prime minister.
Until they had the convention, yes.
Yeah, until they had the convention. Except that she might not have been, because if she was going to stand for the leadership, then she can't become the deputy
interim
prime minister.
Yeah.
So then that would have been Karina Gould, who also wanted to run for prime minister, so it would have been somebody else. Dominic LeBlanc, maybe.
Yeah, but that's why it was never going to happen. That's why he's never going to step down during Parliament, because everybody knew, like, the writing was on the wall that there was going to be a fight for leadership.
Yeah.
Like, that had to happen. He was going to step down. Everybody knew it. So yeah, they were never going to let that happen.
No, so you just prorogue Parliament because nothing was happening. This is what I said, but why don't you because nothing was happening in Parliament anyway.
Yeah.
It had been nothing, not a single, almost. There were a few little things that actually passed, but other than that, it was just one thing after another that was being stalled, and it had to do with committees. It gets very complicated. But if you're not steeped in the system, it is hard sometimes, even for most Canadians, to understand how it works. Parliament and committees and stuff like that, because it's all set up very collegially. So the percentage in the Parliament, each committee has to have the same percentage number of ministers.
Yeah.
And because it's a minority Parliament, all your committees are minorities. And so it can get really wonky if someone decides to, and the Conservatives were going to take him down, and they were going to, so now we've got this situation. We'll be going to the polls in April, I suspect the end of April. So there will be an election call.
And by the way,
becomes the leader.
Literally my favorite thing ever is Trump this week trying to help the Conservatives in Canada by saying that Poilievre isn't MAGA.
I know. That was so funny.
Well, I mean, he's so ham-handed.
He's not MAGA. He's not MAGA enough.
Yeah, he's so ham-handed at this.
Yeah.
And, I mean, the weird part is, Tuesday, he puts out a letter saying that Canadians shouldn't be mad at Gretzky.
I know.
And then on Thursday, he's like, Poilievre isn't MAGA. And it's like, yeah, because one of your supporters, I mean, who the hell knows if Trump even, wrote that.
Poilievre's best friend is Vance.
No, but the point, that's my point. But it's like someone told, Vance or whoever, right, that being associated with Donald Trump was hurting Poilievre's chances of winning the premiership and becoming prime minister. And the only way they're going to get what they want from Canada, like they're going to get someone who rolls over for America, is if Poilievre is in charge, because he'll just do whatever the Americans want, right? So consequently, you had Trump in the most ham-handed way possible saying, I'm not in favor of this Poilievre guy, as a way to try and improve his chances in Canadian politics. But it's also pathetic and ham-handed.
Yeah.
That's
exactly.
It's disgusting to watch, and it's painfully obvious, but it's all these guys have is this painfully obvious stuff. No, it's crazy. Oh my God. There's just every part of this week has been a nightmare. Every day there was a new terrible story. And Wednesday, I think it was Wednesday, Trump just let's let sex criminals back into the country.
Yeah, now and it was just like one, oh my God.
Yeah,
oh my
sex
God,
criminals.
Excuse me. Yeah, no, not the sex criminals. I just opened up the most recent poll has the Liberals ahead of the Conservatives.
Finally.
An Ipsos poll.
All right, but anyway,
we'll
talk
2%.
about that more getting closer to the election.
Yeah.
But no, let's focus on the sex criminals.
I couldn't believe he let the Tate brothers back into the country.
That's what I'm saying. He let them into the country.
Oh my God.
admitted proud sex criminals. Literally Jeffrey Epstein, but, on
steroids.
On Twitter or whatever. This is a man who said, I'm moving to Romania so I can commit crimes and just bribe my way out of it.
Yep.
That's why I'm moving to Romania. And it turns out America now has less law and order than Romania. Yeah, America now has less law and order than Romania does. So there you go. It's insane.
Well, yeah. I know. No, I mean, when I looked at that, I'm sorry, I'm looking at this poll. Only 10%
Stop looking at the poll. You can look at the poll later. The
Only
poll
10%.
is not on a podcast.
I just want to tell you this one thing. Only 10% of Canadians think Trump is joking about making Canada his 51st state.
Of course he's not joking.
No,
Again,
we know he's not
he's
joking.
Never it's the old saying, by Sartre that, to paraphrase it, fascists are always joking right up until they're not.
Yeah.
Like, words don't mean anything to them. Like,
No.
they're always just joking right up until the moment for joking is over, and it turns out everything they said they meant. That's how fascists argue.
Yes.
I mean, he called them anti-Semites, but it's the same thing.
Yes, it's Jean-Paul Sartre.
Yeah. Did you
The
think
French
I meant
philosopher?
Steve Sartre? I think when I say Sartre, people know who I'm talking about.
I'm sorry, but our audience may not know who Jean-Paul Sartre is.
I would hope they do.
The biggest,
You're right.
The
most important philosopher that France has ever had. There. Jean-Paul Sartre.
There you go.
Yeah. Anyway. So yes. But yeah, he let sex criminals into the country. Guys whose career is literally grooming women into sex work. That's their career. That's how they make money. And, honestly, grooming young men to just give them their money. But, that's all they do. They just manipulate people into doing sex work. That's often underage.
Doing.
That's the only way they've ever made money. Is by grooming women into sex work and then setting up a quote-unquote academy to teach men, Ponzi scheme style, how to start your own grooming women into sex work. It's disgusting.
And they ran to Romania because...
They fled the UK to keep Andrew from going to jail on rape charges. They fled to Romania, and he said that the best part about Romania is I don't have to flee the country because I could just bribe my way out of trouble because all of the cops are corrupt. And now he has had to flee Romania to a far more corrupt country, America. And
specifically Florida.
But dear Americans, does that not give you pause? The fact that the Tate brothers feel that America is a safer place to be a sex criminal than Romania. Does that not make you wonder what your country is becoming? It's not safe to do sex crimes where I live. I better go to Florida.
Yeah.
Is that not concerning for you? And the answer is no. The answer is no, it's not concerning for them. They will accept anything.
Because all of that stuff was just overblown, and women are just getting too upset about this. It's not that important. Oh, frig!
I mean, you're right. You're right that's what they'll say.
Yeah.
But I just
I know.
Sometimes I am filled with just shock and disturbance.
And you wonder why Canadians don't want to become Americans.
Yeah. It's
and it is things like this, like we're not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. But
oh my God, we don't have sex criminals fleeing Eastern Europe to hide in Canada.
Yeah,
that's just not a thing we do. Yeah, we let every Ukrainian Nazi come to Canada after the war. We did that, and we shouldn't have done that. We wouldn't let the Jews in, but we let in all the Nazis we could handle. I mean, technically what we did was the Ukrainians said they were fleeing communism, and we didn't do any background checks. We weren't. It wasn't Operation Paperclip. We weren't specifically getting Nazis, but we weren't really checking IDs either. And so we ended up with a lot of Ukrainian Nazis. It's a problem.
But what the hell, I mean, it's still, I mean, ultimately, yes, but it hasn't, I suspect a lot of them have just moved into, because I can think of a lot of them, they just blend in ultimately
into the
and
background.
end up being pushed sort of down, and they haven't had a real, you'd have to do, I might be way out of sync here. One would have to do sort of a demographic
study of how they and their descendants have voted.
Yeah, and how this is working, because, not everybody was, because you think not everybody was, right?
No, absolutely. But then again, my grandfather was a German soldier who wasn't in the Nazi party, but would have been.
Yeah.
Had they won the war, and he would have happily joined the party. He didn't care. And he didn't have any particular opposition to the Nazi party. Yeah. And he came to Canada, and his son founded our extreme right-wing political party that now Paul Poilievre, right, might become prime minister of. Yeah. So, yeah, I think the guys that got let in after World War II have actually caused a lot of problems. One of them is me. I'm one of the problems created by letting in, right-wing people after the war.
Yes.
But I am the result of that problem.
Yes, members of your family.
Again, literally, my uncle founded the party, one of the founders
Reform Party,
of the Reform Party that Pierre Poilievre is now. And you might say, what? I thought they were the Conservatives. No, the Conservative Party ceased to exist.
There was the Reform, and
the Reform Party ate them.
They were splitting the vote. They were splitting the vote all the time, so they came together and joined together and created this party. And then Stephen Harper. I just love
the term "joined together" as if any of the Conservatives survived. It was just the Reform Party. They took the branding. That's all that happened.
Oh yeah, yes. In the large scheme of things, but at the time, this is what it looked like.
Sold. You're right. That is how it was sold. I'm not going to deny
still remember Peter MacKay. Poor Peter MacKay.
I know.
But it was because they were splitting the vote of the right, and so the liberals just kept getting in all the time.
And they thought that was going to happen.
For heaven's sakes, this was all after Brian Mulroney, and then the NDP became the official opposition.
Mm-hmm.
They were that big. And if what's-his-face hadn't died, he might have eventually become prime minister.
He would have become prime minister.
Yeah.
No, I don't think anybody realistically doubts that.
Yeah, I may not have liked him, but everybody did, and I could understand why. Yeah. It was just that I'd had work dealings that had nothing to do with all of the horrible things you think. It just has, it's an attitude thing about pensions and junk like that. And I just went, geez, so you've changed your mind, have you? From what, when I was doing one of these evaluations and doing key informant interviews, right?
Yeah. And that's the key part, right? Yeah. Is that the only way we have been failed is by people not being left-wing enough.
And what happened is that he got cancer and died.
He got cancer and he died surprisingly quickly.
Yes.
Ooh.
And it was terrible.
It was. Yeah. It was a real rough one.
Oh, and then,
Mulcair
took over, and then Stephen Harper.
Such a disaster, Mulcair. There's nothing you can say about Mulcair. I'm sorry.
It was just not.
He didn't have it.
The right person to have replaced.
Nope.
What was his name?
It's really embarrassing that we're not coming up with that.
No, we're not coming up with it. I mean, Olivia Chow was his wife.
Yeah.
This I remember, right?
Yeah, I remember her just fine.
I can't remember his name. I can actually see him.
Oh, I know.
I can't remember his name.
Bald guy, mustache. We know who we're talking about.
Yeah. But anyway, never mind. We've gotten away from...
Well, no, we're talking about Canadian politics. Yes. Because this all has to do with Canadian politics. And it really does.
Yes. And the thing is, that poll that I just said is that it's this anti-Trump feeling that people are just
if I can say for a fact that if Polyev loses badly, if the Conservatives lose badly, I think 80% of that credit is going to go to Trump.
Yeah.
And Canada's disgust at everything related to this monster. We do not want to be part of America. America is a disaster area.
And that's the point, right? Is that little did he know, joking about Canada becoming the 51st state would turn us into Canadians.
Yep.
Because we were fractured left, right, and center. I don't know if I said it on any of the other shows. I've talked to you about this, going to the grocery store and everybody is going in. My local No Frills says they are basically organizing so that anything that comes from America is going to be taken off the shelves and replaced.
Good.
Slowly but surely. And you can see it in some of the areas. Like there are some things that what I guess has happened is they've not reordered.
Good.
Certain things. Like I don't know what's going to happen with cereal because we don't make a lot of cereal in Canada, for example, because Kellogg's. But what do you do about Kraft? Kraft you buy Kraft peanut butter instead of Jif peanut butter because Kraft peanut butter at least is made and bottled and jarred in Canada.
We may not grow the peanuts, but
no.
It is a Canadian company.
And that Kraft part, so it's more Canadian than Jif, for example. It's just like you've got to start buying French's ketchup.
Yeah.
Instead of
I was already buying French's mustard. That's fine.
Well, everybody in Canada buys French's mustard.
Yeah.
That's
it is a definitive Canadian product.
Yes. And so the company, they closed down something or other. Something was closed down. They were going to close it down and French's took it over and turned it into French's ketchup. Yeah. Now, I am sure it's not quite the same. It must have been Heinz who closed down the factory. People like Heinz.
And it is a different, I guarantee, I'm sure it's a different flavor. But, and this is the key part, you don't have to give money to Americans. And that's the goal.
Well, what happened was, when I think about the difference, like Heinz is what we grew up with, and I suspect it's the sugar content. But Heinz is, and the spices and everything else. And so there is no other ketchup that tastes like Heinz. That's true.
No.
But if you stop buying Heinz, and you just buy French's, eventually you will prefer French's.
Spoiler alert!
Because
I just put sriracha on everything.
Yeah,
that's my thing. But that's
our go-to.
That's my solution. Is I just put it on everything.
Yeah, and now we're looking at things like margarines and stuff. So, what accidentally he may have been doing is turning us, because we're talking more about the interprovincial.
Yeah.
I talked about this before, but it's getting even more so. Like, it is just astonishing how people really, the idea of becoming part of America is
so revolting to us.
And then every now and then you get the American who says the obvious. Why would you want to bring Canada in? Because the Democrats are going to win then.
Yeah. Well, and the most insulting idea is that Canada would be one state. No, it would be 10 states.
Yeah.
There is no province, other than PEI, that has fewer people in it than Wyoming.
Yeah.
So no, you would not get to be one state.
And I suspect Ontario would be split into two.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm going, okay.
Southern Ontario and then the rest of Ontario.
And they can be Trumpy all they want.
Oh God, yeah.
Yes, we've got this issues in Ontario.
We just had the Ontario election. We're real pissed about it.
Yeah, but it's
because we're stuck in this situation.
Inevitable.
No, it was inevitable, but we're stuck in this situation. It's as simple as that, where because there's two center and left parties and only one right-wing party, they can get a majority government with 38% of the vote.
Yeah, and what happens is
that pisses us off.
And then what pisses us off is that he gets on stage and goes, now I've got a mandate to build a tunnel under Toronto. Now I've got a mandate to do this. Now, no, you don't. No. You didn't get 51% of the vote.
And again, the people, and what bothers me most
he lost seats.
No, he lost seats. He did lose seats. But more importantly about the Toronto thing, everybody who lives in Toronto voted against him.
Yeah, because
he has the suburbs.
Yeah.
He has the suburbs. But the suburbs, you know, the people who live in Toronto don't want a tunnel under Toronto. But that's why they voted.
401.
It's an insane idea.
It's the stupidest idea.
Yeah, you've ever heard. 100%. But anyway, now we're talking real deep Canada stuff.
Yeah.
No, but yes, I would like to swing back to Zelensky for a second before we go. And
yes.
The thing what I loved was hearing Trump, like, genuinely seem to be shocked when this man says to him, right? Because he says, this war never would have started he does the thing he always says, which is, this war never would have started if I was president. And Zelensky just said back to him, the war was already going on when you were president.
Yep.
And Trump has no idea what he's talking about. And he's like, they invaded Crimea in 2015 when Obama was president. And we were fighting the entire time you were president. And we were fighting while Joe Biden was president. And now we're still fighting. And I'm like, wow.
Yep.
That's fantastic.
Here's your history lesson, Donald Trump. I know you didn't like history,
to
so didn't
his
study
face. And the thing, like the idiotic thing of him pushing back, where it's like, because Trump is like, this has nothing to do with us. And Zelensky, I think, quite smartly says, yeah, you're not feeling it now, but you're going to feel it in the future if you let Putin do whatever he wants.
Don't tell me how we're going to feel,
like,
is Trump's response.
Insane?
I'm nuts.
Like, don't tell me how we're supposed to feel. How dare you tell me how we're supposed to...
No,
what is wrong with this guy?
Yeah.
How we're going to feel? Like, what is wrong with this guy?
I know.
No, it's hard to watch. It is
very difficult to watch. Unless you're gung-ho on bullies.
Yeah, I know. Some people love bullies.
Yeah.
Some people want to get bullied. I don't understand it, but here we are.
Yeah.
All right, so it has been a crazy week. America is officially a haven for international sex criminals.
Sex offenders.
Yeah, just international sex criminals have a home in the United States. If you're worried about, all of your international sex crimes, come to America. We didn't even say that he said he wanted to introduce a citizenship gold card instead of the green card, where if you hand him $5 million, you get to be a citizen of the United States.
Did you not see the Daily Show's tape?
I did not.
They called the gold card. And then there was the platinum card, and then there was the black
Here's all
card,
of the extra stuff you will
and
get.
the diamond card, and this is how much it would cost, and all the extra stuff you're going to get.
It's madness.
The only thing was, they still couldn't get you your Starline pass at the airport. this Starlight.
Yeah, no, I get it. That's beautiful.
Oh my God.
But it's like, this is the insanity we're dealing with. Because remember, during the first Trump presidency, like, Trump Jr. got in trouble and honestly should have gone to jail for going all around the world and saying, if you buy one of our condos, I will use my dad to get you a green card.
Yeah.
Buy our condo, put down $500,000 today for a condo and we'll get you fast tracked for a green card is what he said. And I'm like, he should have gone to jail for that. They didn't even investigate him because, again, Merrick Garland is a pussy. But, I'm
going...
Just offering that, let alone that they never actually did it. The fact that he offered that is fraud.
Yes. And we have, and the price has now gone up, inflation?
Inflation.
From 500,000 to 5 million.
No, but it's not, it's not the president's scumbag son saying it anymore.
No.
Now it's the official position of the United States government.
No, it only proves that the sons are only surrogates for the father.
Well, of course, they always were.
And we haven't even talked about South Africa, and we haven't even talked about a whole bunch of things that happened before. Because this week was bonkers.
It's insane. Everything that happened this week was complete and utter madness.
Yep.
Everything. And who the hell knows what next week is going to look like now that Trump has publicly humiliated himself and aligned himself
in the world.
Well, yeah, he's publicly humiliated himself, and he's created, an axis of oppression with him and Russia and North Korea.
Yep.
That's what he's done. Like, he's like, we're all on the same side.
And Belarus.
Oh, and Belarus, of course.
Remember, there were 4 of them who voted against.
Who voted against it, yeah. Oh, my God. Voted against saying Russia started this war.
Yeah.
Like, how on earth? And the thing is, that's how you know that, like, that Zelensky knew what he was getting into when he showed up. Yeah. Because he saw that vote where on America Monday. Said Russia didn't start the war.
Yeah.
Like, he saw whose side America was on, and he showed up anyway. And that's why, like, the thing is, you can say that this was an ambush, right? Yeah. And it was. The Americans, like Trump and Vance, were planning to ambush Zelensky. But the funny part is, Zelensky knew he was going to get ambushed.
Yeah. He prepared himself well.
He knew. He wasn't surprised.
No.
That's why he didn't lose his temper. Trump and Vance both lost their temper.
Yeah.
He didn't, because he knew this was coming. And that's the funny part. They knew they were going to ambush him. They didn't expect him to be ready for it.
Yeah.
And the thing that gets me is, like, trying to insult the man for conscription. It's a war.
Yes, shall we talk about...
America has never been invaded. America, they have been invaded, but, like, as a response. England invaded in the War of 1812 because America invaded first. Mexico ran up into Texas and California because America attacked first. But it's like, they have never had a country ever try to invade America. Like, that's never happened. Yeah, right?
No.
And America still did conscription for most of its history. So now you're going to insult a country that's actively being invaded for doing conscription?
Wait a sec. Please. Wait till you hear this one. The thing that I learned in the fall from one of my students who has both sides of the border thing, right?
Right.
Is that, and I don't know why I didn't realize this, but it's never come up before.
Yeah.
But when, first of all, they left the draft dodgers back, right?
Of course.
And I just somehow or another assumed that they didn't have the draft anymore. America still has the draft.
Yeah, still have selective service. Yeah, you have to sign up for the draft. They don't do it, but everybody has to sign up for it. Yeah.
They don't do it because they're not at war, but they still have the draft, which is the equivalent of conscription.
No, it is. It is conscription. It's just conscription Canada, they haven't pulled the trigger on.
In Canada, we very, very seldom have conscription, only in the First and Second World War. And then it was conscription if necessary, but not necessarily conscription.
I know. I always loved that.
Was the line. Yeah. The line, Well, and then, of course, Quebec, there were some Quebecers who did.
Oh, yeah.
Francophone Quebecers, because they had certainly Francophone regiments. But, a lot of Quebecers just ignored the conscription and just went out into the bush for a while, and nobody bothered chasing them in the bush.
It's pretty funny, honestly.
It's, it's like in Italy, that particularly when Mussolini, they would head for the hills when the conscriptors were going into the villages and towns.
And who could blame them?
No, who could blame him? Who could blame anybody for not wanting to go to war?
Yeah, like I don't blame them for that. No, but it's like the idea that you're criticizing this man for having conscription while they're being invaded, in the middle of a war, they're being invaded, and as you say, they still do the selective service. They still have the draft in America.
Yep.
At any point, Trump could say, "Okay, we're doing the draft."
Yep.
And
it wouldn't. Yeah. They wouldn't fall under any... Congress wouldn't have to okay it.
No.
Because it's already law.
It's already law. Everyone has to sign up for the draft. And
I'll bet you nobody really signs up anymore, but it's just assumed.
Well, no, you have to. At age 18, like, it's actually the law that you have to sign up for selective service. Both men and women. Yeah. Everybody has to sign up for the draft. Everybody technically still has a draft card. I mean, it's digital now. You don't put a card in your wallet anymore. But yeah, everyone in America still has to sign up for the draft. That's just a fact. It's crazy, but it's true. They never got rid of the draft in America. They just stopped doing it.
Yeah.
But yeah, they don't conscript people anymore, but they can anytime they want. And you have to write down who you are and where you live and be ready to be drafted at a moment's notice. So yeah, America, he's accusing him of some evil for doing something America does. Yeah, it's bonkers to me. Yeah, America is, we're witnessing American collapse. If you've ever wondered what it was like living in Russia after the fall of the Soviet Union, well, if you live in America, you're kind of going through it. You know? They are destroying all government functionality and just handing all of the money over to rich people. And by the way, that is exactly what happened in Russia. This is exactly what happened in Russia. There is no difference between right now. Oligarchs are just divvying up the country and say, I'll have this, I'll have this, I'll have this, I'll have this. And the only difference is generally, it wasn't as obvious as Elon Musk. You know?
Yeah.
Generally, they at least pretended to still have a government. There wasn't just a rich guy standing in front of, a rich guy literally just standing in front of the cabinet and being in charge.
Oh, did you hear?
What?
Now, which department was fired? And they hacked into the White House?
Oh, yes, and did the toe-sucking thing.
The Trump toe-sucking
video. I don't remember which department it was, but that was very funny.
Oh, my God, and they couldn't get it off the things.
No, it was so funny.
And I didn't see it, but I saw it on... because they showed it on the Daily Show. Desi Lennox. Yeah. Well, we're not going to show you this disgusting video as it came up and showed it again, right?
Of course.
It's
disgusting. But
it was the most disgusting thing you've seen in a long time.
But the fact that this, OAN or whatever guy says to Zelensky, how dare you not wear a suit in the White House, in the Oval Office. And Zelensky quite reasonably is I'm doing exactly what Churchill did. I'm just Churchill for the entire war just wore a flight suit. He had that ridiculous jumpsuit he did and everywhere he went. And so he's and I am wearing, I am not wearing civilian clothes until the war is over. And that's what he's always said.
Let me tell you, do you think that Elon Musk shows up in the Oval Office?
That's what I was about to say.
Well dressed.
Not just, but it's he gave an entire briefing where Trump just sat there listening to him, standing there in his stupid, Doge t-shirt, and baseball cap. And I didn't hear any questions about that from the American press.
Well, no, because Donald Trump was going to ask everybody, all the cabinet ministers, whether they were happy. His cabinet, whether they were
to Elon.
No, whether they were happy with what Elon was doing.
Yeah, and of course,
and I'm just cracking up. Oh, by the way, we have managed this month to effect 6 seizures in at the border because, of course, fentanyl. This whole business of all this fentanyl rushing into America from Canada.
Yeah.
Yes, they've had 6 seizures.
Okay.
56.1 grams. Not even half a pound in American.
That's 1/9 of a pound. A pound is 454 grams.
Oh, that's right.
That's 1/8 of a pound. Literally, that's exactly 1/8 of a pound. Well, why would it come from Canada? We don't make fentanyl here. They make it in factories in Mexico and a lot more of it in factories in China. They just put it in shipping containers. Why would it be smuggled from Canada?
Yeah, I know. We have a problem with it coming into Canada from the U.S.
Yes,
not the other way around.
Drugs to us. Oh my God! All right, so it's a mess, Everything.
It's a mess.
Sorry we were so rambling, but everything is trash right now.
Well, it's just that the only reason we did it to take this one is that it was really like a whole bunch of crappy trash ended with a crescendo at the end of the week.
Who could have imagined Friday would be that dramatic?
You know,
Nobody saw
if it
this
hadn't
coming.
been for Zelensky, we probably wouldn't have done a Sunday show.
No, probably not. Like, because there was just so much nonsense. But it's like, how could you not talk about this?
Yeah.
Yeah, so obviously, you all know we're very left-wing. I'm not a fan of the FBI, for example, which is weird, because I do, numerous TV, I've done many, many hours of a podcast about a show that just does nothing but celebrate the FBI. But because I'm not a fan of the FBI, famously, I don't want you to take this as I'm in favor of murdering FBI agents, because that is the furthest thing from my mind. Because what I'm about to say is, the one piece of good news we had is Leonard Peltier's out of jail.
Yes.
His sentence was not commuted. It was transferred
commuted.
to... No, it wasn't. It was transformed into indefinite house arrest. So he didn't walk free. He is in house arrest for the rest of his life. Okay? But he just doesn't have to be in jail anymore.
Yeah. He's back home.
He is back home. And that's the matter. It's not a full commutation. It was just he just changed it to house arrest. And this is one of the things Biden did before leaving office. Now, Leonard Peltier was involved in a gunfight that killed some FBI agents.
Two FBI agents.
And then there was a longer gunfight afterwards, during which one of the AIM members was killed. And no further FBI agents were killed. And no one is defending them shooting FBI agents. But the fact is, how do I put it? Like, how do they put an incident at Oglala? This is a tiny community of 20,000 people that had the highest murder rate in America. Yeah. And that murder rate was entirely because government-sponsored assassins were killing members of AIM and their families. Okay? So, while I'm not in favor of killing FBI agents, if you're driving down the road and you're being followed by two unmarked cars and guys come out of those cars with guns, you don't have time to stop and ask if they're FBI agents. Because people have been assassinating you for so long, what the hell are you supposed to do in that situation?
Yeah.
Like, I honestly don't think Leonard and the other people in that car, right, had any idea what they were supposed to do other than shoot back. Because they had been being executed for years at that point. It was a horrific situation. There was a civil war going on in America, right? We don't talk about it that way because it was the American Indian movement, AIM, were the ones getting killed by the U.S. government and associated entities, but that's what it was. It was effectively a minor civil war happening, and we are living with the aftermath of it today. Like, the treatment of Native communities in America is still shameful. It absolutely is. There's still corruption in how it's handled. It is even worse than Canada, and that's saying something.
Something, yeah.
Right? Canada is not great about any of this. In America, it's worse. But he was not convicted. Yes, was he involved in a shootout? He was, 100%. He was involved in a shootout. We have no idea who fired the first shot. We can't possibly know. And yeah, they were FBI agents there just looking for a guy who had assaulted someone. Like, they were not the assassins that people thought they were. But they weren't driving marked vehicles. They weren't, wearing giant flags that said, we're in the FBI. It was not unreasonable, even if the AIM members fired the first shot. It's not unreasonable to do that, given the situation they were in. And the fact is, no one ever proved Leonard Peltier shot anybody.
Yep.
All of the evidence, all of the testimony was extorted out of people, and all of the physical evidence was falsified. So, whatever happened on that day, that man shouldn't have been in jail, and he shouldn't have been in jail for 45 years.
Yep.
Okay, so we can be happy he's out. Was he in the gunfight that he denied he was in for years? Yeah, he was. He admitted that in the 90s. Like, at the time, up to the point where they made Incident Oglala, he still wasn't admitting he was in the gunfight. Now he's like, yeah, I was in the gunfight. He's like, I didn't execute anybody. I don't know if I killed anybody, but I was in the gunfight. So
yeah, and what he's always said was I don't know who shot the FBI agents.
Yeah.
And even if I did,
I wouldn't tell.
I wouldn't tell.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And that is the thing that
but you can watch Incident at Oglala right now on YouTube for free.
Yep.
If you want to see more about this. Yes, again, he does lie in it because he was in the gunfight. Okay? He was.
Yeah.
But the rest of the information in there about the context, about how corrupt the trial was, about the tribal government that was killing its own citizens, about the FBI's involvement, that's all true. Right? And I only found out about this. It's so funny how I found out about this, because I had watched and loved the movie Thunderheart, and you told me it was all based on a true story.
Yeah.
And Michael Apted, who made Thunderheart, found out about all of this while he was making Thunderheart, and that's why he made Incident at Oglala.
Yeah. With the help of Paul Newman?
Oh, no, Robert Redford.
Robert Redford.
Yeah, Robert Redford paid for it and narrated it.
Yeah.
Because, again, he cares about this stuff, too. So, yeah, the one good piece of news we had this week. Leonard Peltier's out of jail. There you go.
Yeah.
We got one good piece of news, everybody. Leonard Peltier's not in jail anymore.
Yeah.
Oh, it's been a rough week. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm not going to do all of our exhortations to subscribe and email us.
No.
We've been here complaining about America for a really long time, and most of our listeners in America, and so I don't want you to take this personally.
Yeah.
But
what's
your government's trash right now. There are people in your Congress who voted for QAnon, right? Who believe in QAnon. There are people who believe in Nasara. There are people who are cult members. Like your head of national intelligence is part of an insane cult that is an offshoot of the Hare Krishnas. It's a mess right now. And if you want to know
sympathize,
if you want to know how it became a mess, if you want to know how it became a mess, you just have to. I'll try and find the name of the book. Basically, Newt Gingrich thought that if he only said lies and dumb things, he could get the dumbest, most lied to people in America to vote for him. And he's like, and then we'll take over Congress, we'll destroy everybody's faith in Congress, and then we'll take over Congress, and then we'll be in charge. But what he didn't understand is, once you destroy faith in Congress, you can't get it back.
Yeah.
And now, in the early 20th century, there was a thing called the Do Nothing Congress. I don't remember exactly which year it was, but it was shameful because that Congress only passed 80 bills in the 2 years they were seated. And that was considered shameful, and they weren't doing their jobs. Now, does Congress pass any bills? And it's all because Newt Gingrich wanted power, and he thought, I'll destroy Congress to do it, not understanding that you will destroy America's ability to function forever. And America fundamentally hasn't really functioned since the 1990s. And that's the nightmare we're living. They just don't pass bills anymore. They're not for anything. And so, they have this race down to be the most, and since the congressmen don't actually do anything, and they don't have to be experts in anything, you are now electing the dumbest, most hateful people to Congress, because it's not like they can do the job badly. There's not a job.
Yeah.
Oh, so sorry, America. It's sad you have to live through this. I'm not saying it's time for a French Revolution in America, but,
Well, it would be...
You got to do something about these billionaires, guys.
I don't
have an answer for it, but you got to do something.
It's called the let 'em eat cake.
Yes.
We haven't,
Well, I mean, Elon Musk, a man who has never worked a day in the past 20 years, now calls anyone on benefits parasites. So, yeah, that's how they think about you. Most of America is on some kind of a benefit. Elon Musk thinks you're all parasites. I don't know who said it. I thought it was, because they saw, I don't remember who said it, but I thought it was so insightful that they saw, what's his name? Mark Zuckerberg, and how inept he is at talking to people and how garbage he is at communicating. And the thing they pointed out was Mark Zuckerberg's only job for the past 20 years, 2 decades, has been going to meetings. That's his only job. He doesn't do anything. He just goes to meetings. How is he so bad at talking to people if his only job is going to meetings? And the thing is, that's true of Musk as well. How is he so bad at communicating? His only job, he made a website in 2001, and he hasn't worked a day since. His only job is going to meetings. And he's so bad at it. Anyway,
okay.
So that is the nightmare world we live in, and it is caused by capitalism. Just a little drive-by at the end. We'll see you back here on Tuesday for more... Sorry, on Thursday for more Profiler. But until then, I'll say that's right. Au revoir.
And have a good week.